The Falkland Islands sit in the South Atlantic Ocean. They're over 8,000 miles from the United Kingdom. But in 1982, these remote islands became the center of a bloody war. A war that many today barely remember. But for Britain, it was a defining moment. Argentina had long claimed the Falklands as its own. They called the islands Islas Malvinas. The dispute had been simmering for decades. But it exploded into war in April 1982. On April 2, Argentina invaded the Falklands. Their military landed troops and seized control. They raised the Argentine flag over the islands. The civilian governor was forced to surrender. The Argentine junta believed Britain wouldn't respond. They thought the distance and cost would deter retaliation. But they were wrong. The British government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, acted quickly. Thatcher was under pressure. Her approval ratings were low. But this invasion gave her a chance to show strength. Britain launched Operation Corporate. A massive naval task force was sent to the South Atlantic. It included aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. Over 100 ships were involved. Some traveled over 8,000 miles to reach the islands. One of the first major events was the sinking of the Argentine cruiser General Belgrano. A British nuclear submarine, HMS Conqueror, torpedoed it on May 2. 323 Argentine sailors died. It was controversial. But it showed Britain's determination. Argentina responded by striking back. On May 4, they used an Exocet missile to sink HMS Sheffield. 20 British sailors were killed. The war was now deadly serious. The Falklands War was fought in harsh conditions. Freezing temperatures. Stormy seas. Rugged terrain. British troops landed on the islands in late May. They had to march across rough landscapes with heavy packs. Air cover was limited. Fighting was intense and close range. Major battles included Goose Green, Mount Longdon, and Tumbledown. British forces slowly pushed back Argentine troops. At Goose Green, 600 British troops faced 1,400 Argentines. Despite being outnumbered, the British won after 2 days of fighting. The Battle of Mount Longdon was fierce. It took place at night. Hand-to-hand combat was common. British paratroopers faced strong resistance. But they eventually secured the high ground. Meanwhile, British warships were under constant air attack. Argentina's air force launched waves of low-flying bombers. They used French-made Exocet missiles and iron bombs. HMS Coventry, HMS Ardent, and others were sunk or damaged. Despite the losses, British forces advanced. On June 14, Argentine forces in the capital, Port Stanley, surrendered. The war was over. In total, 649 Argentine and 255 British lives were lost. The victory shocked the world. Britain had defeated Argentina thousands of miles from home. It restored pride in the British military. Margaret Thatcher's popularity soared. She won re-election in 1983 with a large majority. But the Falklands War left deep scars. Many veterans on both sides suffered from PTSD. Some took their own lives in the years that followed. In Argentina, the defeat weakened the ruling military junta. Mass protests followed. By 1983, democracy was restored in Argentina. The islands themselves changed too. Britain poured money into defending them. A new airfield was built at Mount Pleasant. Troop numbers were increased. Falklanders were granted full British citizenship in 1983. Today, the Falklands remain a British overseas territory. They have their own local government. But Britain handles defense and foreign policy. Tensions with Argentina still exist. Argentina continues to claim the islands. But no major conflict has erupted since. The war is often overshadowed by other global events. Cold War tensions. The rise of terrorism. The Gulf War. But the Falklands War was significant. It was the last time Britain fought a full-scale naval and ground war. It involved aircraft carriers, submarines, infantry, and special forces. all in a remote, hostile environment. It also marked the end of an era. Soon after, military technology would evolve rapidly. Drones, precision-guided bombs, cyber warfare. But in 1982, this was still boots on the ground and grit in the mud. The war also tested British logistics. Supplying a task force so far from home was a huge challenge. Fuel, food, ammunition, everything had to be shipped. Yet the operation succeeded. The SAS and SBS played critical roles. They carried out reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. They destroyed enemy radar stations. Their work gave British commanders an edge. The Falklands War also had diplomatic consequences. It strained Britain's relationship with some allies. The United States eventually supported Britain. But at first, they tried to remain neutral. Latin American countries sided with Argentina. Chile, however, quietly helped Britain with intelligence. The media played a big role too. War correspondents traveled with troops. They sent daily reports back to the UK. For many Britons, it was the first time seeing war unfold on TV. The phrase, "gotcha," became infamous. It was a headline in The Sun after the sinking of the Belgrano. Critics called it insensitive. It showed how war reporting was evolving. Today, war memorials honor those who died. Every year, veterans gather to remember. In Britain and in Argentina, the war left lasting impacts. And yet, many young people today don't know about the Falklands War. It's not widely taught in schools. It's rarely covered in mainstream media. That's why it's called Britain's forgotten victory. But for those who fought and those who lived through it, it will never be forgotten. Subscribe for more in-depth historical breakdowns, war mysteries, and untold stories from around the world.